particularly important about LessEn, given the current economic environment, is its application in terms of reducing energy within buildings, particularly for companies with a lot of real estate, looking at government, looking at active reuse, how we use buildings, and also how we're going to use buildings in the future, and how our behavioural patterns, given the data that we can get from this project, can help us make better buildings in the future.
Environmental sustainability is a problem which at last is now in everyone's consciousness. Since 2006, since the Gore movie and the Stern report and many other initiatives. And for me, there's always been 4 steps to heaven as far as this is concerned. Firstly, policy. Secondly, measurement. Thirdly, rules. And fourthly, most importantly, behaviour. And most governments around the world are beginning to address the first 3. The fourth is by far the most difficult. Coupled with the fact that the biggest problem is not new development, it's adapting existing buildings. But behaviour is critical because you can design the most wonderfully sustainable building in the world, it can have LEED Platinum in spades. But unless the building is occupied and managed in a way that sustains that sustainability, then nothing happens. And your best laid plans go to waste. So I think the initiative that ULI has adopted here has a real benefit towards the behaviour objective because it socialises the problem. And socialising the problem is a real benefit. Workers in offices, in factories, in public buildings need an incentive. The feel good is rarely enough because this has got to matter to their hearts and minds, but if there are other ways in which they can earn recognition by behaving well, it's human nature. They'll perform and behave well, and that's what we guys need.
We are a financer and an owner of efficiency retrofit projects at private sector facilities, commercial and industrial. We'll finance 100% of the front-end cost of a project, so cover all the engineering and construction costs, and then have customers pay us back on a cost per unit of energy saved. So in many ways, the flip of their current utility bill will become their energy efficiency bill, so to speak. And we're targeting on projects right now in the U.S., but also overseas in Europe. And key barrier in terms of commercial real estate right now is the credit of counterparties that we'd enter into agreements with. Trying to find ways to move on that front. Some of that is working with existing lenders. We're also trying to tap into any state or local programs that offer some credit support or enhancement. And in the U.S., looking at a federal loan guarantee from the Department of Energy. But our business model is to have building owners view energy efficiency as a resource, something that they're not tapping into right now, and have a pay-for-performance, pay-from-savings type structure that ultimately is what they're using to repay back Metrus over time. So far, the main driver, you definitely have companies that are looking at trying to use our financing vehicle as a way to fund their sustainability programs. You have a lot of sustainability officers at companies now, but you don't have a sustainability budget, so we can be that budget. But I'd say the single largest driver has actually been the need for a facility upgrade. It's a lot of customers where they have large heating or cooling equipment that's nearing the end of its useful life. They're looking for a procurement vehicle to get that new upgrade without having to dip into their own capital or take out a loan or a lease for it. So that's when we're coming in. And some customers are also viewing it as a way to enhance the reliability of their facility in terms of its performance. Some customers certainly look at the energy savings, but others are concerned that if they don't replace some of this aging equipment, it might fail unexpectedly, and then they have business interruption costs and other matters that could get a lot more expensive. So sometimes we're viewed as an insurance policy as well.
One of the key issues is really the disconnect between investors who are interested in financing retrofit projects, buildings, and the disconnect between investors and also people who are actually looking for capital to finance the buildings, whether that's being the owners or property management companies So I think the key issue, at least from a financial perspective, is really to bridge those two key players. One of the issues is actually to provide data, because a lot of times we do have the data for energy saving after the retrofit projects, but that oftentimes is not really translated into financial figures in terms of like the investment return or the money saved. So one of the possible key solutions or key piece of the bigger puzzle is actually to find a linkage between those two kinds of data sets in order to bridge the two key players, the investors and end users of the buildings.
I'm the director of the Clinton Climate Initiative's Energy Efficiency Retrofit Program, and we work with building owners around the world who want to design, develop, and implement energy efficiency programs in their buildings. I think the hardest thing for building owners is to actually implement programs that make environmental sense and economic sense, and figure out contracting methods for doing that and financing mechanisms for doing that. So whether their goals are environmental commitments or cost savings or energy reduction to comply with regulations or corporate social responsibility statements, putting all of that together into a holistic retrofit or retro-commissioning project and figuring out the best way to effectively implement the project and then the mechanisms to pay for it is very difficult.